المقطع حتى لما جي النائب ريتشارد النائب الايرلندي يبدو في عنده كونفرنس هو، فطلبوا منا 10 دقائق على غير عادة الغربيين يعني. فإن شاء الله تعالى يعني نستغل فقط متابعة المقطع لإثار كثير من الجدل والمتابعة والمشاركة على اليوتيوب. أعتقد هذا جاء في أعقاب حرب العام 2014. المقطع ليس جديدا وإن كان تم تداوله على الساحة الفلسطينية يعني حديثا، لكن المقطع ليس جديدا. طبعا يعني حننظر إلى أو نتابع المشاهدة فيما يتعلق بهذا الموضوع. تفضل.
Be forced to do so. Thanks, Senator Walsh. Okay, Deputy by Barrett.
Ambassador, I will say frankly, I'm one of the people who thinks you should be expelled from this country, and I believe that that's nothing to do with you personally. It's to do with the policies of your state. And I think, along with Desmond Tutu, that the time for treating you as a normal state is over, because you're not behaving as a normal state. And I just want to ask you questions really in relation to that contention. And I would just say for the record, it certainly isn't motivated by anti-Semitism in my case. I mean, for example, when disgraceful attempts were being made to downplay the horrors of the Holocaust by people like David Irving, I brought a Jewish Auschwitz survivor to this city to organise meetings and get her on national television to remind the Irish people about the horrors of the Holocaust. And I would do so again if anybody tried to downplay the horrors of what were done to the Jewish people. But it is precisely because I'm opposed to racism that I oppose what your state is doing and what it stands for. So I just want to ask you a few questions in relation to that. And I should also say, by the way, I lived for a year on Moshav Neot Hakikar in the Dead Sea in 1987, 2 weeks before the first Intifada broke out. That leads me to my first question. You have tried to cover over what you have done, the killings of innocent people in Gaza on 3 separate occasions over recent years, the seizure of Palestinian land and so on, by attacking Hamas. Now why don't you just admit that Hamas didn't exist when the first Intifada took place? They didn't set up an armed wing until the early 1990s. And that there was a reason that PLO were in Tunis at the time, exiled, effectively not present. But the ordinary Palestinians rose up because you denied them basic rights. I lived there. It was apartheid, it was racism, it was endemic, it was rotten. Absolutely, I was shocked within weeks of living there to see how you treated Palestinian people. And isn't it the fact that the law of return, which is the basic law of the Israeli state, is a racist apartheid law because it confers rights on Jews that it denies to Palestinians. It allows, for example, if I was Jewish and had never stepped foot in Israel, I could claim citizenship there tomorrow. But 6 million people whose origins are in what you now call Israel, who were forced out in 1947 or 48, do not have that right. Isn't that part of the reason why the Palestinians are in dispute with Israelis? Because you deny them the right to return to their homes and to their land and to their villages, and that they have a legitimate claim, even under international law, to return, but you deny them that right. Why do you deny them that right? And why do you give that right to other people who have no connection whatsoever with the land, whether you call it Israel or whether you call it Palestine? Why do you continue to seize land, if you're serious about Oslo and the two-state solution? Why do you continue to seize land, which under that agreement is land designated to be Palestinian land? 500,000 people, most of which has taken place since Oslo. You allow that to happen. Why do you allow it to happen if you're serious about giving this land to the Palestinians? It's absolutely extraordinary. And it just, you must, are you not just taking us, Ambassador, for idiots? That you can say with a straight face, we're serious about peace, but while we're serious about peace, we're going to seize Palestinian land. And you expect the Palestinians to just sit back and do nothing about that, and the world to accept that that is an acceptable way to behave. And you asked earlier on, what could we have some constructive solutions? Now you know what the Palestinian people have been asking for, far less even than some people would ask for, because I believe the whole apartheid system should be dismantled. But what they've asked for is to lift the siege of Gaza. Just to lift the siege of Gaza. Let them have an airport. Let them have ports. Let them not be dictated to by a government for whom they do not vote as to what can go in and out of their territories, whether they will have power, whether they will have clean water, whether they will have medicine. What makes you think you're allowed to have nuclear weapons and the fourth biggest army in the world and visit destruction on the people of Gaza, but they have no right to defend themselves? They have no territorial sovereignty over that land.
Which last question?
How do you justify that?
All right.
How do you justify those double standards? And very lastly, Ambassador, people like Bishop Tutu, Nelson Mandela, and I would certainly describe your state as a apartheid state, with different laws for people depending on their race or religion. Now, isn't that just the case that, for example, at checkpoints going into the West Bank, there's a channel if you're Israeli or European, and there's a channel if you're Arab. Just because you're Arab. If you came into Dáil Éireann and they stopped you and said, "Are you Jewish?" "Oh no, sorry, you can't come in through the same entrance as Irish people or European people because you're Jewish," you would call that racism and apartheid. But yet you practice that. You practice that with your checkpoints and your military barriers and your apartheid wall. How can you justify that?
All right, thank you.
Mr. Boyd Barrett, I think that I haven't heard so many cliches in such a short time for a long time. You belong to those who think that I had to be expelled from this country. I'm sorry to delude you too. And the fact that you mentioned a few times already this afternoon that you're not anti-Semite raises questions. I'm not saying that you are. I'm not saying that you are.
Disgraceful comment.
But the fact that you mentioned it, I never claimed that you're an anti-Semite. The fact that you mentioned it.
Your document did.
Now, you said that you experienced, you lived in the Otakikar. It was very hot and dry there. I know the area very well. And you saw that Israel is a racist country. I know what you've seen. You've seen all these buses in which only Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, can enter, because the buses for Ethiopians, Russians, and Mizrahi Jews is a different bus. You probably saw the supermarkets to which only Israelis can enter, Arabs are not allowed. Well, you haven't seen that, because these things do not exist in Israel. You know damn well that Israel is not a racist country. Israel is a country in which everyone has the same rights. Every person doesn't matter to which religion or which orientation he has the right to vote and be elected. We have in Israel politicians that represent the minority, the Arab minority. We have judges at different levels of the juridical system. We have army officers. There are a lot. We have diplomats who are either Druze or Bedouins or other kinds of Arabs. And we are very proud of that, because Israel is a democracy that respects the rights of everyone. I know you can say that you don't believe me, but
I saw it for myself.
You've been exactly, so you've seen this.
Okay, please. I don't want this getting personal.
Now, there are people, and I think you hinted to us that Israel was trying to mass murder the civilians of Gaza. In 2000, Gaza population was 1.2 million people. Today there are over 1.7 million people. That means that we are doing a very bad job trying to commit genocide to these people. I think that Israel proved the opposite. Israel proved that it tries to avoid the loss of
على السؤال، علامة السؤال، في علامة سؤال تحت الزر، علامة السؤال. ما كانش مستعد. ليش يا أحمد مستعد؟ لا بعض تلبس على جهاز علامة السؤال.
طيب احنا بدنا ندردش نستغل الوقت بس الى ان ياتي النائب. طلبوا بعض الوقت ان شاء الله تعالى الوقت ما يطول. اعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اجدد الترحيب بحضراتكم جميعا في هذا اللقاء.
Innocent people. The fact that this huge army of Israel did not cause more than, and I'm saying again, it's a terrible thing.
سكرها. في مثل هذا اليوم 15 من آيار مايو في العام 48 قامت أقلية غازية بطرد الأكثرية الوطنية. دل على ذلك الوثائق التي أفرج عنها أخيرا، الوثائق الإسرائيلية طبعا، والتي جاءت لتعدل الرواية الإسرائيلية. هذه الرواية الأكثر كذبا وتلفيقا، وهي للأسف الأكثر انتشارا أيضا. لعل ذلك رافق الإفراج عن هذه الوثائق، رافق وجود ما سمي بالمؤرخين الجدد الذين قاموا بإعادة يعني تقديم الرواية الإسرائيلية من جديد، منهم بيلي موريس على سبيل المثال، وإيلان بابي وغيرهم. الحقيقة في كتبهم أشاروا في أكثر من مناسبة واستندوا إلى هذه الوثائق الإسرائيلية على أن هؤلاء اللاجئين الفلسطينيين قد أخرجوا بسبب الحرب وأعمال الحرب. الكلام هنا عن أكثر من 98 بحسب الوثائق مرة أخرى، أن أولئك الذين هجروا من الفلسطينيين هجروا بسبب الحرب وأعمال الحرب، وباقي تقريبا 1% عزي إلى قرار شخصي من قبل هؤلاء الناس، من قبل هؤلاء اللاجئين، أنهم خرجوا بقرارهم هم دون أن يكونوا مهددين أو خاضعين تحت التهديد. لكن في الحقيقة أن معظم أهلنا الذين هجروا كان بسبب الحرب وأعمال الحرب، أيضا مرة أخرى بحسب الوثائق الإسرائيلية التي أفرج عنها بعد مرور أكثر من
ليس فقط بسبب الحرب وأعمال الحرب، إنما بسبب إرهاب منظم.
نعم.
مارس القتل.
نعم.
بلا تمييز.
أنا قصدت أنه
يعني حين يدخلون قرية
نعم
لا يبقون أحدا يستطيعون
يعني
قتله.
القصد بأعمال الحرب هي
يعني
كل ما يترافق من عدوان، كل ما يترافق من عدوان.
أنا شاهد على ذلك.
نعم لا شك.
جربت بنفسي.
يعني سواء كان الحرب النظامية أو ما رافق ذلك وما تلاه من أعمال عسكرية اعتمدت التخويف. وطبعا يعني بيجن في كتابه التمرد قال هذا كلاما بشكل واضح، قال لولا دير ياسين ما قامت إسرائيل. هذه المذبحة وغيرها من المذابح التي ارتكبتها العصابات الصهيونية في مقدمة الهاجنة، والهاجنة في حينه كانت تمثل العمود الفقري للمنظمات الصهيونية، وكانت الأكثر تسليحا والأكثر عتادا، وعلاقاتها ببريطانيا كانت ممتازة، وهي كانت تمثل العمود الفقري لما عرف لاحقا بجيش الدفاع الإسرائيلي. هذه الرواية التي تؤكد عليها قرارات الأمم المتحدة، هذه القضية التي تؤكد عليها قرارات الأمم المتحدة والتي تطالب المجتمع الدولي وإسرائيل بشكل خاص بعودة هؤلاء اللاجئين. يمكن القرار 194 تم التأكيد عليه عشرات المرات، كل سنة يتم إعادة التأكيد على تنفيذ يعني هذا القرار. معروف أن إسرائيل هي دولة مارقة، وهي يعني لم تلتزم بكل القرارات الدولية، بالتالي يتم التعامل معها على أنها دولة فوق القانون.
هي محصنة.
وهذا الذي يدفع نائب
محصنة
إيرلندي.
بالفيتو الأمريكي.
نعم.
لو
هذا
حصل.
صحيح.
هي محصنة
هذا صحيح.
بالفيتو الأمريكي ضد أي إدانة
لذلك
وضد أي عقوبات.
هذا الذي يدفع
هذا صحيح.
يعني نائب
نعم.
إيرلندي، نائب إيرلندي لهذه المساءلة الشاقة والقاسية لسفير الإسرائيلي. طبعا غالبا يعني في الدبلوماسية لا تستخدم مثل هذه اللهجة. لاحظوا النائب يسائل بلهجة شديدة الحقيقة، يعني وهي غير مألوفة في العمل الدبلوماسي، غير مألوفة في العمل الدبلوماسي. لكن ما يدفع إلى ذلك هو جرائم إسرائيل. جرائم إسرائيل غير متوقفة، والتي أخرجت الناس عن يعني أطوارها فيما يتعلق بالعمل الدبلوماسي. العمل الدبلوماسي دائما معروف أنه هو عمل يعني بيعتمد على السياسات الناعمة والسوفت ابروتشز، وليس اللي هي الهارد ابروتشز. لكن واضح انه رجل خرج عن طوره وبدا يعني يسائل كانه هو فلسطيني يعني.
Hello.
بس هذا الخط.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we could. It's a great pleasure to be with us today. How are you?
I'm good, and apologies for the delay. We had some technical problems at this end.
No problem. It's a tremendous pleasure. We just displayed a video of you in the Irish Parliament.
Very good. I was speaking about Palestine.
Yeah, the one who's questioning the Israeli ambassador, the one that went viral throughout Gaza.
Very good. Well, I hope you feel I did the Palestinian cause justice.
Hopefully we'll meet you here very soon, inshallah, in a day of freedom.
Yes, well, I would love to do that. Were you going to ask me questions, or did you want me to make a statement?
Okay, let me first introduce you to the audience. And then you could start making your first intervention. Then we could take comments from the participants round. Okay.
Sure. Could I just ask you quickly, how long is the whole discussion?
It's about 30 minutes, half an hour.
Speech that's all of it.
Yes, that's okay.
It would be 30 minutes for your statement and then 30 minutes for the questions and comments. So it would be 1 hour in total. But
That would be a bit difficult for me. An hour would be difficult for me because we have a national meeting going on.
okay, so I think 15 minutes for each will be suitable.
Okay,
Okay, very good.
that's fine.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, today we are honored to have Mr. Richard Barrett, member of Irish Parliament TV since 2011. He's a very strong voice advocating the rights of the minorities, namely in Palestine and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. He's a very strong voice of truth and justice and righteousness in the world. He touched all our hearts, and the video that went viral about Mr. Richard questioning the Israeli ambassador of what happened in the 2014 war Operation Protective Edge. Mr. Richard will be joining us today to talk about the Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe, and the British role. You are free to go with whatever you wish to say. Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, can I thank you very much for inviting me to speak? And can I send greetings to all of you and to the people of Gaza on this important anniversary of the Nakba. I should say to you that The reason I got involved in politics in the first place was because of the issue of Palestine. As you may have heard if you saw the video of my engagement with the Israeli ambassador, I was in Palestine in 1987 and 88, the year the first Intifada began, and I was absolutely shocked at the treatment of the Palestinian people, but very inspired by the resistance of the people in Gaza and the West Bank against the intolerable oppression that you were suffering and are suffering at the hands of the Israeli state. And it was witnessing what was happening in Palestine that led me to, when I came back to Ireland, to get active in politics. And the issue of Palestine remains for me one of the most important issues for me personally, but I think it is really the great cause, international cause of the late 20th and early 21st century. And of course it has a lot of resonance for us here in Ireland. The Nakba as a brutal exercise in ethnic cleansing by the Zionist forces against the Palestinian people mirrors much of what happened in Ireland with the partition of this country by the British Empire. And I think, like all partitions by empires, it has been a total disaster, where people were set against one another, where the tactic of divide and rule was used by empires in order to gain control of strategically important places, producing endless conflict and suffering and oppression. So this is a hugely important issue, and one we are very familiar with in this country. And we have struggled for hundreds of years, really, to gain independence in this country, to free ourselves of the colonial oppression of the British Empire, just as the Palestinian people have struggled for many, many decades now to free themselves from the colonial enterprise that is Zionism and the State of Israel. So I want to say that we stand in absolute solidarity with you, and that solidarity from Ireland is not just limited to my own party, the People Before Profit Party, but I think it is fair to say that a majority of people in this country support the Palestinian struggle. It is noteworthy that Israel believes that Ireland is one of the countries that is most hostile to the Israeli state, and that is something of which I certainly am very proud. And that is not because we are anti-Semitic or have any problem with the Jewish people. On the contrary, it is because we oppose racism and we oppose colonialism. That is why we stand with the Palestinian people, and the people of this country in their majority support the people of Palestine. And we are very active in promoting the campaign of boycott, sanctions and divestment against Israel, which we think is the key weapon that those who stand with the Palestinians internationally must employ to support your struggle for Palestinian freedom and self-determination. And we use every opportunity to promote the boycott against Israel. And we believe that that is a legitimate and effective tactic, just as the boycott against apartheid South Africa was a key weapon in the struggle against the apartheid regime in South Africa. Obviously, combined with the resistance of the people of South Africa, who were the key force that liberated black South Africa, and we know, of course, that the Palestinian people are the key force who can liberate Palestine, but we want to play our part as part of an international movement of solidarity to isolate the Israeli state, to expose its racist and apartheid structures, to delegitimize Israel in the cause of achieving Palestinian self-determination and freedom. I should report that in the recent elections that have taken place both in the south of Ireland and in the north of Ireland, forces on the left who are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause have made quite significant electoral gains both in the north and the south of the country. So I am happy to report that the voice of support and solidarity with the people of Palestine will now be even louder in the Irish political system, both in the south, in the independent state of the south, but also in the north of Ireland, where we are still subject to British rule. We are obviously keen to know from you what else you think we can do here to support your struggle, because we cannot believe that Israel continues to act with the brutal impunity in its treatment of the Palestinian people, that the international community continue to stand by while the Palestinian people suffer the most appalling oppression and racism and discrimination at the hands of the Israeli state, and that Israel continues to be allowed to flout international law and basic human rights in its treatment of the Palestinian people. And we believe that the Irish state and indeed the European Union should break off economic, political and trade relations with the Israeli state in order to isolate it, because we believe the Israeli state is not a normal state, it is not a democratic state, it is a colonial enterprise that needs to be completely dismantled. And finally, I would say, as my introductory intervention, my personal view, this is not necessarily the view of everybody who supports the Palestinian cause, but my own view is that in order to achieve Palestinian self-determination, we need not just to ask the Israeli state to treat Palestinian people better, but we believe in people before profit that there is no place for the Israeli state whatsoever in a civilized world, that the entire Israeli state, that the entire Israeli state is an obnoxious, tyrannical, racist regime that must be completely dismantled, just as apartheid South Africa was dismantled. That statement is not a statement of hostility towards Jewish people. On the contrary, we believe that is obnoxious to all peoples anywhere in the world to have a state which gives privileges and priorities to one ethnic or religious group over another. And that is the nature of the Israeli state. With its racist law of return, it is inherently a racist and apartheid state and needs to be completely dismantled. So for us, the key job we have as a movement of solidarity with the Palestinian people is to delegitimize and expose the state of Israel for the racist colonial entity that it is, and to look forward to the day when that state is gone, and when all of the people of Palestine, whether they're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or of no religion at all, can live equally with equal rights in the state of Palestine. That's what self-determination means for me, and I think for anybody who believes in democracy and self-determination and human rights.
you so much. It's very thrilling, very unprecedented to hear a politician saying such things openly and frankly. We appreciate it enormously. But for me, let's start with the first comment from me being a little bit authoritative. What were the consequences after your questioning of the Israeli ambassador in the parliament? What did you face afterwards? The main concern... okay, go ahead, please.
To be honest, most of the consequences were positive. Ireland seems to be quite unusual in the European context, in that the majority of people sympathise with the cause of Palestine. And even though the government continues to cooperate with Israel and does not raise its voice sufficiently against Israel, they do not have any confidence to criticise the Palestinian cause, because they know the majority of people in Ireland sympathise with the cause of Palestine. And I think that is obviously to do with our own colonial history. There has always been a strong identification in Ireland between our own historical struggle against the British Empire and the Palestinian struggle, and indeed with the South African struggle when that struggle was going on. So all of the consequences of my intervention have been positive. I think it has given encouragement and confidence to the forces that are calling for a boycott of Israel.
So let me just briefly translate your intervention to the audience here. The main no need. We will directly go to the comments and questions.
Sure.
Thank you very much. I am Basim Naim, former Minister of Health. My question is, I think Israel, without an international support, especially from the West, on the top, from the United States of America, won't be founded and won't be continued to be still there in 2016. What do you advise? What can the Palestinians do towards the international community to support our cause in a stronger way?
That's a very good question. Well, my belief is that generally the movement of people power is the key, is demonstrating the mass mobilization of the people of Palestine and the wider region. And by that I mean, for example, there was huge, the events of the Arab Spring gave enormous inspiration to the people of Europe and I think across the world, when they saw that massive people rise up in Palestine against Israel, but also in Egypt against the Mubarak regime and the wider Arab Spring. I think this gave people a real sense of a mass democratic movement of the people of your region. And I think this is the key to gaining support for the cause of Palestine, is to show that the struggle of the Palestinian people is a struggle of the mass of ordinary people, because the way the media and the establishment try and present your struggle is to suggest that it's just a small group of terrorists who don't like Israel. This is how they try to delegitimize your struggle. And I think the more that you can demonstrate that your movement is the mass movement of the majority of Palestinian people, and that it is part of a wider mass movement across the Middle East against dictatorial regimes and regimes that are puppets of the big imperial powers, the more this will inspire people in Europe and internationally to support your struggle?
I would first of all thank our friend, the speaker, for his reaching up to the truth of the strife between the native Arabs of Palestine and the incoming foreign Jewish settlers in Palestine, who displaced the majority of our people from our homeland. I thank him also for being so intelligent to support our cause and returning back to our homeland to live in it peacefully, even with those who displaced us out of them, sorry. With the support of such brave, good, intelligent friend, I am sure that we will win our cause in the coming near future. Thank you very much from the depth of my heart for saying the truth, siding with the truth, siding with the oppressed and greatly wronged people in this world. Thank you very much.
Mr. Richard, I would like to thank you very much, deeply. I would like to thank you on behalf of our people, Palestinian people, on behalf of CBDS. And I think this is a very short time today. And I'm looking for, all of us are anxious to having you for a very long time. So I need a promise from you to have another talk or lecture in the coming days, in the coming weeks, to lecturing in the cause of Palestinian refugees. I would thank you again for your bravery, for your support for Palestinian people. Thank you, and thank you. I'm still waiting for your response on regard of what I've said. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you for those very kind words. But I think the real debt of gratitude and thanks goes to you and to the Palestinian people. All of us are absolutely amazed at the resilience and courage of the Palestinian people in the face of the brutal oppression that you have suffered for so long. And we find it incredible that you continue to resist against all of the odds. It is to you that we owe the thanks. But I think one message I would like to, in response to yourself and the last speaker, is to say that what we need to do is expose the myths about the Zionist state. In the popular narrative that we get in the mainstream media, they try to present the conflict between the Palestinian people and the Israeli state as being a conflict between Jews and Arabs, or Jews and Muslims. And of course this is a lie. This is the lie that is promoted by the Israeli state to justify what they are doing to the Palestinian people. And I think the key is for us to expose the truth and show that your struggle is not a struggle against Jewish people. It is not primarily a struggle about religion. It is a struggle of for basic human rights and equality of treatment. and that the Israeli state is a racist enterprise. I think this is absolutely critical to expose that racist dimension of it and to show that it is the Palestinian people who are those who are fighting for human rights and equality and justice. So certainly I would be very happy to talk to you again at any time. I'm very proud to be able to speak to you today and to do anything that we can to support your struggle. And would like to know if there's anything else that you think we should be doing here to help you. We would always be very happy to do that. Could I also just say briefly, I have another member of the Parliament here with me who was recently elected in the general election that happened a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the social media footage or the television footage of it, but when he was elected, the first thing he did, and all his supporters did, was to raise the Palestinian flag. Yes. And this went out on the national... So I'm going to bring him over to say hello to you. His name is Gino Kenny, and he's another representative in the Parliament now. Sit here, Gino. And I think it's important to say that Gino Kenny comes from one of the poorest and most disadvantaged areas of Dublin. And it is in precisely places like this where the support is strongest for the people of Palestine. So it was a tremendous inspiration to see him raise the Palestinian flag in front of the entire Irish population as his first act as a newly elected representative of the Dublin Parliament, in the Irish Parliament. So I'll introduce him very quickly to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello. Hello. Greetings from Dublin.
You are welcome. We are welcome. Most welcome in Palestine. I hope to see you in Palestine. And thank you very much indeed for all your support for Palestine, for raising our flag, and for all your efforts and activities for our own people. We're hoping that you will continue that, so that one day the flag of victory of Palestine will be raised all over Palestine and all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, we, as said, Richard, myself and Richard will bring as much solidarity as possible to Ireland for the Palestinian cause, and when we're in the Parliament, we'll bring as much again solidarity to raise the issues of Palestinian liberation. And one issue that we're trying to champion is the boycott of all Israeli goods coming into Ireland. So we're going to try to do that in the next maybe 6 months to a year, and try to champion that. And if we can kind of build that kind of boycott of Israel, then obviously the campaign against Israel, the BDS campaign, will be quite successful internationally.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we hope to see you soon in Dublin. I'm flying to Dublin soon, and I'm flying to Dublin soon.
Okay, Zach.
I'll see you in Dublin, and I think we have some suggestions. We can, for example, when I was in Dublin, I was a member of the anti-apartheid movement at that time with Kader Ismail, and I think we can establish an anti-apartheid movement against Israel in Dublin, Ireland, and you can be active in that. We can also establish probably a parliamentarian BDS committee within the Irish within the Irish Parliament. You can do a lot of things for Palestine, because remember our history is similar to yours. When, for example, Richard Churchill said, I am the Protestant are right and they will fight. His grandson said, I am Zionist. And when they started Plantation Island, the Zionists started settlements here. And when Cromwell sit in Ireland to Connacht or to help to the Irish people, Begin and Ben Gurion and others said to the Palestinian people, to the refugee camps or to him. So our history is similar, our fight is similar. Probably we will have our own, we'll see Palestine liberated one of those days. And we are being inspired by your 1916 statement, in which you say, we declare the right of the people of Ireland, and in this case we say of Palestine, to the ownership of Ireland, and we say to the ownership of Palestine. Palestine, from the river to the sea, is for the Palestinian people, and we are ready to strive for our own country until it is totally liberated and until it is de-Zionized, until the apartheid regime of Israel becomes something of the past, and the Palestinian people will be reinstated, will be getting by that time our right of return, right to self-determination, and then we will contribute to the welfare, to the development of the whole world. And we are looking for that day, hoping that by people, with the Irish people and with honest people and freedom-loving people, peace-loving people throughout the world, the Palestinian people will be able to liberate their own country. Thank you very much indeed. Hoping to continue your struggle. We cannot be overcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question here. When you questioned the ambassador, the first thing he did was kind of accuse you of being anti-Semitic, which was very funny because he sounded like an Israeli troll stalking me on Twitter. My question is, what should you do, like in Ireland and in the UK, the people who support Palestine, to prevent Israel from this kind of witch hunting thing they're doing for every pro-Palestinian out there? What should you do in order to prevent this, to stop them using this anti-Semitism card in order to stop legitimate criticism of Israel?
Yes, I think this is a very important question. And one of the things that I was able to say personally to him, which made it very difficult for him to make this accusation, was to point out that I personally and our organization had been very active in opposing racism and fascism directed against the Jewish people, so that our support for Palestine was consistent with our opposition to racism generally. And I pointed out to him that, which was true, that in the 1990s I had brought a Jewish survivor of Auschwitz to Ireland to speak about the horrors of the Holocaust. And to make the argument that if you are opposed to anti-Semitism, then you must also support the Palestinian struggle, because it is another example of racism that the Palestinian people are suffering. So I think this is a very important argument to make. The crime that was committed against the Jewish people was one of the greatest crimes in history, but it is a similar crime that has been visited on the Palestinian people. And I think this is an argument that resonates with many, many people across the world, including many Jewish people. When you say, if you are against racism, you must be against the Israeli state. If you are concerned about the history of the Jewish people and the suffering they faced at the hands of the Nazis, then you must support the Palestinian people, because otherwise your opposition to racism is not consistent. So this I think is a very important part of the argument, and to have as often as possible Jewish people who are against Zionism and against the Israeli state speak up, and to say this is a very powerful weapon indeed in delegitimizing the Zionist regime.
Hi Richard, it's Zach here.
Hey Zach, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. The screen is not very good here, so I couldn't see you properly.
Shall I stand?
Yes.
I'm very proud of you, Richard, and all your colleagues. And we are honored to have you all. And we thank you for all the work you are doing for Palestine. And I'm sure you are the strongest voice for Palestine and for the Palestinian people and for the Palestinian cause. And I'm sure you will be always like this and keep supporting our cause. You asked about what you can do in Ireland to support Palestine. I think one of the things from my experience in living in Ireland, I think we need to be more organized as activists in Ireland from all factions and from all political parties in Ireland. This is a very important thing to orchestrate a very strong and well-managed work in Ireland to be effective. Finally, I want to thank you on behalf of all the audience and all my friends here. And we want to see you in person in Gaza very soon. And my regards to Brett and to Gino.
Well, Zach, first of all, it's great to see you there, healthy and well.
Thank you.
And we miss you here in Ireland.
I miss you too.
But I know you have important work to do, and you're not home, so that's very important. But I want to agree with you, Zach, that always we need, yes, to bring together more people to work in greater cooperation in support of the Palestinian cause. And if I might address the last speaker, who made the point about the group in the Parliament, we would be very happy to try and promote this initiative about having a parliamentary group for BDS. So I think this is an excellent idea. So we will give you a commitment that we will try and organise such a group. And if any of you guys are coming over to visit, we will be happy to bring you into the Parliament to talk to parliamentarians there from all parties.
Thank you. We have a friend. He's coming to Dublin in a few weeks. Yeah, he's an Irish Palestinian. He was in Ireland in the 80s.
Okay, well that's excellent.
Yeah. Okay. We have a last comment. If you hold with us, Richard.
Again, we highly appreciate your role and your colleague to support our Palestinian cause in Ireland and in Europe generally. Really, this struggle support to freedom, to justice as a humanitarian message. And we follow up your hard speech with the Israeli ambassador. Thank you very much for these efforts. My question, I believe this is the first step against Israel, and we look to you as a Palestinian citizen. And we look to you as a Palestinian ambassador in Europe, dear friend. I want to ask you, what about the second step to support our cause? And the second question, you talk about comparison between Israeli regime and the former regime in South Africa as apartheid state. If we compare between the situation in Palestine and in Ireland, how do you evaluate this comparison, please? Thank you very much.
I heard the second question. Could you just repeat the first question again?
I asked. I talk about your hard speech with the Israeli ambassador as a first step to face the Israeli propaganda. And I ask you, what about your second step to support our cause? Is it clear, please?
Okay, I'm finding it a little difficult to hear that first question, but maybe I'll deal with the second question. I think this comparison between the struggle in Palestine and the struggle in apartheid South Africa, and indeed our own struggle with the British Empire, I think this comparison is very, very important. Because I think that the apartheid struggle became successful because people across the world identified it as a struggle against racism. And similarly, in the Irish struggle, it took a few decades, but eventually people across the world began to understand that it was a struggle against racist oppression. So I think to try and frame the struggle in these terms is very important. This is the way in which we can gain the support of a majority of people across the world, because most people are against racism. But often they don't, some people do not see the struggle of the Palestinian people in these terms. So this is, I think, a very important battle. And by exposing the history of Israel, particularly things like the law of return and the other racist laws and racist practices of the Israeli state, and the history of ethnic cleansing in the Nakba, I think when these things are explained to people, it has a very powerful effect. Because they begin to see the struggle in Palestine in a different way. They no longer see it as a struggle between Jewish people and Muslims, and they begin to see it as a struggle of human beings against racist discrimination and racist oppression. So I think this comparison is extremely important. And I think we are winning the battle in this country, but also now more and more internationally. I think we are beginning to win this battle when we explain the details of the racist policies of the Israeli state, the racist history of the Israeli state, the racist laws which form the basis of the Israeli state. This is very powerful ammunition to delegitimize Israel and show that it is not a normal state.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard. We will take just a final comment now.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you. I have a question for you. In your opinion, Saeed don't care about the international law, and we see the international community supporting Israel. So, in your opinion, what we should do, and Palestinian through it, in diplomacy, I mean, what they should do in United Nations, I mean.
Yes. Well, Zach will know that my view has always been that we need to push forward the one-state solution. I think one of the big mistakes of recent years has been the idea of the two-state solution. Because I think the two-state solution, it moves us away from the truth of what happened to the Palestinian people. And people imagine it's about redrawing boundaries, and that if we can just put the boundaries in the right place, everything will be okay. But I think you know that this is not the truth. That the problem is Palestine should never have been partitioned along racist lines, as it was in 1947 and 48. So I think we have to present the struggle as a civil rights struggle against racism and ethnic partition. I think if we can begin to reframe the struggle in this way, it can have a very powerful effect. And this also then gives ideological support to the boycott. And I do believe that the boycott is gaining ground internationally. When I first became involved in politics 25 years ago, very few people in Ireland understood the Palestinian struggle. Today, the vast majority of people understand it and support the Palestinian people. And many people are looking for practical ways to support you. And I think Israel is being hurt by the boycott, but we need to take it to the next level. So instead of it just being individuals who are boycotting, we need to move it to organizations that are boycotting. Trade unions, community organizations, and ultimately to the level of the state. This was what happened in the struggle against apartheid South Africa. It began with individuals, it developed into a campaign, eventually trade unionists began to take it up, and eventually the pressure on the Irish state became too much, and they then had to support the boycott as well. So I think this is the way we have to go.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard. We are completely speechless in front of your heartening and delightful efforts. And it's a real marvel. It's rare to see a politician, let's say, with a genuine Palestinian heart and a genuine supportive core towards the truth and justice in the world. Thank you very much for being with us today. We hope to see you soon in Gaza, inshallah.
Yes, thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Have a great day.
بويد بارت
One state solution.
ايش يا اخوي؟ ريتشارد بويد بارت
هو ضاربه
والله ممتاز
هذا برو فلسطيني.
رائع
فلسطيني اكثر. والله عندنا فلسطيني اكثر من